guys, I'm Tiffany.
I'm Stephanie.
And we're Sisters of the South, back with another true crime video for you today. But before we get started, we just want to remind everyone to please hit that like button, subscribe for more true crime content every week. And if you hit that little notification bell, it will remind you when your favorite sisters are back with another story. And with that being said, we need to give a little shout out to our friends over at SoFly.
SoFly!
SoFly,
Not so small.
not no more. Yeah. And I'm going to let Stephanie tell you all about them.
SoFly is a family-owned business here in the Houston, Texas area, and they specialize in embroidery and lasering. So what they do is take an accessory of your choice, and they will put your logo, your initials, your name, maybe an icon onto a hoodie, a t-shirt, a cap, even a purse. And with lasering, they can do tumblers. They can also do carving boards, keychains. They can do leather patches for you, and they are absolutely beautiful. So we know that you'll love them and be happy because they do our merchandise. And just to show you a little bit about what they do, we're going to show you a video. So here we go.
All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed that video. Go check them out. Let them know we sent you. We will put their information in the description box, so that'll be easy for you to find.
All right, guys, today we're going to talk about the alphabet murders, also known as the double initial murders. They are an unsolved series of child murders which occurred between 1971 and 1973 in Rochester, New York. So we're going to go way back to the 70s. Actually, I was born in 73. So this kind of caught my eye because it's something when I was doing research for different true crime stories, I had never heard of this story. And it is unsolved. So I think it's important that we get this information out there. Maybe there's some DNA that we can link and we can find who did this. So all three victims were girls aged 10 or 11 whose surnames began with the same letter as that of their first name. Each victim had been assaulted and murdered by either manual or ligature strangulation before her body was discarded in or near a town or village near Rochester with a name beginning with the same letter as the victims' names. So this was very meticulously planned by whoever did this. And to me, just the scenario is sickening, but this is a different level of sick to me.
Oh, absolutely.
And you've really got to be doing your research, and it has to be someone who's very familiar with these little girls, to me.
And watching them.
And watching everything. At 4:20 p.m. on November 16, 1971, a 10-year-old Puerto Rican child named Carmen Colon disappeared while returning home from an errand in Rochester, New York. According to eyewitnesses, Carmen entered the pharmacy her grandmother had instructed her to visit on West Main Street, but left the store upon learning the prescription she had been instructed to collect had not been processed, informing the store owner, Jack Corbin, "I got to go, I gotta go." She was then observed entering a car parked close to the pharmacy. Carmen was reported missing to the Rochester Police Department at 7:50 p.m. Approximately 50 minutes after Carmen exited the pharmacy, scores of motorists driving along Interstate 490 observed the child naked from the waist down, running from a reversing vehicle believed to be a dark-colored Ford Pinto hatchback, frantically waving her arms and shouting to attempt to flag down a passing vehicle, which I think is so sad.
Oh my God.
Because she is horrified, and as a child, just as a person, but especially a little girl not having her bottoms on. I just can't, my mind just was reeling thinking about her emotions at that point. At least one of these witnesses observed Carmen being submissively led back to this vehicle by her abductor. 2 days later, two teenage boys discovered Carmen's partially nude body in a gully not far from Interstate 490, church and close to the village of Churchville. This location was approximately 12 miles from where Carmen had last been seen alive. Her coat was discovered in a culvert some 300 feet from her body. Her trousers were later discovered on November 30th, close to the service road near where numerous motorists had observed her attempting to escape her abductor. And my question at this point is, the person that did observe this and maybe stopped at some point, why didn't they intervene or call the cops? And this is a problem with our society sometimes.
Back then you minded your business. Where
Yes.
now, if you see something, if you hear something, you do something. That
Yes.
wasn't like that back then.
No.
It was okay, no, stay out of it. And then you've got this that happened. I mean, if
Yeah.
someone had intervened, things may have been differently, ended
Yes.
differently.
It's so scary to
It
me.
makes me nauseous.
Yes, me too. I, I don't understand that culture back then, but unfortunately, no one tried to help her and intervene. So, an autopsy revealed that, in addition to having been, the child had suffered a fracture to her skull and one of her vertebrae before she had been manually strangled to death. Furthermore, her body had been extensively scratched by fingernails, which
Mm.
I don't understand, because to me, fingernail scratches is defense wounds. So why are they scratching her? Is that just um, a torturing mechanism
That's
for
what I
this
was thinking.
person?
Yeah.
It's just strange to me. Both the murder of Carmen and the fact that no individual who had observed the child attempted to flee from her abductor alongside Interstate 490 had attempted to offer her any assistance generated intense public outrage, which
It should have.
absolutely, um, no excuse. Two New York newspapers, the Times Union and the Democrat and Chronicle, initially offered a combined reward of $2,500 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of her murderer. And all information each publication received was related to police. Numerous local businesses and residents added private donations to the reward fund, gradually leading the sum to exceed $6,000. And that doesn't seem like a lot for today's standards, but for back in
Yeah.
the early 70s, that was quite a bit of money.
Mhm.
Although police interrogated several suspects in the months following Carmen's murder, including her uncle, no individual was charged with her murder, and by December 21st, the number of investigators assigned to the case on a full-time basis was decreased to 3. Early 1972, 5 large billboards, each measuring 30 feet by 12 feet, were erected alongside major Rochester expressways. Each bore an 8-foot, 2.4-meter high picture of the child alongside the headline, "Do you know who killed Carmen Colon?" Free use of these billboards was given for 1 month by Rochester Outdoor Advertising Company. Each offered a $6,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of Carmen's murderer or murderers, in addition to displaying the telephone hotline number and postal address. Each established the previous November to encourage the public to submit anonymous information. Although this tactic generated several new leads, all failed to bear fruit. 17 months later, at approximately 5 p.m. on April 2nd, 1973, 11-year-old Wanda Walkovics disappeared from the east side of Rochester while returning home from an errand. According to the owner of the delicatessen Wanda had been instructed to visit, the child had purchased the groceries she had been instructed to buy at approximately 5:15 p.m. before she had begun walking alongside Conkey Avenue. Wanda was reported missing by her mother, Joyce, at 8 o'clock p.m. Sounds like back then kids did a lot of errand running for their parents
Right.
and
Well,
a lot of
yeah.
walking. Yeah, which today just we're not going to send our kids out to do that. But back then, this was fairly common. Heck, they'd send you to the store to get some beer and cigarettes.
Well, our parents were very strict about where we went and who we were with and things. But I
Hmm.
remember, we had a store that we walked to that was actually on the highway,
Yeah,
and we just walked through a
some woods.
trail with our friends, and
Uh
we'd
huh.
be there. Hello, three
Yeah.
cent gum. You're going to be there a while.
Oh,
You might
yeah.
have $2 to spend.
Yeah.
So we
Our
were
parents
there
could see the store, but we were walking through woods. Heck, now that I think about it, someone could have been hiding in there.
hiding in there on the highway.
Highway. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
w-
But,
now my
also,
kids are scared to do anything without me. We've kind of messed them up a little bit, but I'm okay
well,
with that. I'm okay that my kids don't wander off.
it's a good thing. Honestly, in today's society, it's a good thing. But I can remember mom giving me only like 10 or 15 minutes. And if I wasn't home within 10 or 15 minutes, which I always was, trust me, she'd have come looking for me.
I don't think I had a time.
You didn't have a time? No, she would give me a time. But she also knew that I would gallivant around, right? I'm a
Yes, we
wanderer.
all knew Stephanie would wander around.
I'm a wanderer. And once I get preoccupied, I can lose track of time. So mom knew that, so that's probably why she gave me a time constriction. So police immediately launched an intense search to locate Wanda. Almost 50 detectives searched several square miles of the terrain around her home, the delicatessen, and areas around Ganese River, where she had been known to play. These searches failed to locate Wanda, although several neighborhood residents recalled observing Wanda struggling to carry the bag of groceries walking just north of Avenue B. Three classmates specifically observed her bracing the bag against a fence so that she could improve her grip as a brown vehicle drove past her. And it seems to me, whoever this person is, they observed very closely any vulnerabilities that might be going on.
Well, for them to know their names to where they had the same letter for
Yes.
both names, he watched her anyway. So he
Yes.
knew when, like, okay, well, her mom sends her to the store. Like, he knew her
Exactly.
schedule. There's no way
Yes.
you couldn't have.
And her route.
Yeah.
And it's possible that these girls knew the person and he'd been possibly grooming them here and there along the way as the nice guy. Maybe he was buying them ice cream or candy, maybe a soda pop, something. Because
Sure.
I'm sure that, you know, they weren't just hopping in a car with a man. I'm sure that he made himself known, especially in order for him to know the names and things like that of these girls.
To know the names, yes. But I have to say, it was no stranger danger back then.
No.
I remember when we started talking about that,
Hmm.
and it was always, oh, hey, I'm friends with your mom,
That's true.
which I told
Yes.
my kids, if someone tells you that, I only have a few. So
You
you
know
know
my
who they
friend.
are.
There's no
I'm
strange
not
friend.
sending a weird friend, a strange friend.
Well, that's true.
So he could have said, hey, I know your mom. She wanted me to help you. There was
Yes.
no stranger danger at this time.
Mm-mm.
She could have said, oh, thank God, mom sent a friend to help me.
Right. And also back then, we were taught to respect our elders.
Yes. So you did what they said.
And whatever anyone older than you said, or someone around your parents or grandparents' age, you respected them and did what they told you to do. So I didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. But that was a huge thing. As a matter of fact, until I hit my 40s, I pretty much went by that rule until I realized, number one, I am the older person now. Number two, just because they're older doesn't mean that they're a good person. And so I only give that respect to people I know deserve it.
Well, and I have my children do that. Like, you do need to respect at school, you need to respect them. Don't
Absolutely.
trust them fully,
Yes.
but yes, sir, no, sir. Have some respect because they're older, but you
Yes.
don't have to trust them.
Yes,
There's a big difference
absolutely.
between having a little respect towards them and full on trusting them.
Absolutely. Times have changed, guys. This is crazy to me. Wanda's fully clothed body was found by a police officer at 10:15 a.m. the following day, hillside discarded at the base of a hillside alongside an access road to State Route 104 in Webster, approximately 7 miles from Rochester. The position of her body indicated she had likely been thrown from a moving vehicle with her
Ugh.
body rolling down the embankment. An autopsy revealed that she had been assaulted, then strangled from behind with ligature, most likely a belt. Several defensive wounds indicated Wanda had fought with her murderer. In addition, her body had been redressed after her death. The autopsy also revealed traces of semen and pubic hair on the child's body, which I hope they've preserved that.
Oh, absolutely.
I really do, because even if the person that did this is no longer here, they need to put a face to these young ladies who were so much tortured by him.
Now, I'm sorry. I know I'm going back. Um, there had to have been two, right? Were there two people involved in this? Like one person driving that Pinto?
Well, possibly. Now you all, and we'll put a picture of what a Pinto hatchback looked like. Those cars were so tiny,
Small.
very small. So more than likely there was two accomplices. I'm not positive. I don't even think the police know that. It would make sense. The only thing is, why would you be using a Pinto? Because, man, it would be a struggle to
They
get
barely had a back seat.
barely. I mean, two adults was that was pretty jam packed in
Didn't
those
Dad have a
cars.
Pinto?
Yes, Dad
Yeah,
had a blue Pinto.
I remember it because I remember being excited. My feet touched the bottom.
Yeah, and the back seat was so
It was
tiny.
tiny.
But yeah, and the floorboard was very narrow. So I can't imagine putting a young girl at these ages in the back seat. Or I mean, but I guess if you are a criminal and you've got an intent to do this, you're going to find a way. I mean, look at Ted
Of
Bundy.
course. Of
He
course.
stuffed girls in a Beetle a Volkswagen Bug.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why I struggle thinking that, but I'm also not a criminal trying to figure out how to cram people in a car
I guess
under
she
these
wouldn't be able to get
circumstances.
out.
That's very true. She would not be able to. So, furthermore, several strands of white cat hair fur were found upon her clothing, although Wanda's family did not own a pet with fur of this color. As had been the case with Carmen, investigators established an anonymous telephone hotline in addition to distributing numerous flyers throughout Rochester appealing for information. A reward of $10,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of Wanda's murderer was also established. These police inquiries produced an eyewitness who informed investigators that as Wanda had walked home from the delicatessen on the evening of April 2nd, he had observed the child standing alongside the passenger door of a large brown vehicle, conversing with the driver. This eyewitness was unable to obtain a clear view of the occupant of the vehicle, although the location of his sighting was just 2/10 of a mile from where Wanda lived. Another individual who contacted investigators following the installation of the anonymous hotline informed investigators she had observed a man forcing a red haired girl matching Wanda's description into a light colored Dodge Dart on Conkey Avenue between 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. on the evening of her disappearance. So, this is so frustrating. So here we go again. An eyewitness sees a man forcing this young lady into a car.
But you don't say anything until after the fact.
Yes. So, number one, it makes me think you are just worthless. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to say that you can't share that information to get this young lady some help, or you're lying.
And I feel like you should be able to tell a difference, because I'm going back to a scenario with one of your children and
Yes.
our father.
Yes. Yes.
You can tell a difference when it's a child in trouble. He just doesn't
Yes.
want to get in the car. He's being
Yeah.
a rough child, doesn't want to get in the car, versus a child terrified for their life. There's a difference
Yes. Or
in,
even
I'm
come
not
by
getting in
and
that car with
yes.
mom, versus, oh my God, that I don't know this guy.
Well, it's if you see something, say something. Jot down the license plate number, call the police and say, "Look, I don't know
Can you
what's
just
going
check
on
this
here.
out?
Yeah, you need to check this out. I think there's something nefarious going on." That wasn't a thing back then.
Yeah.
But it's so sad because she could have changed that child's life if she would have just said something. It's crazy. So the Rochester Police Department dismissed any suggestion of a link between the murders of Carmen and Wanda, although a sheriff's sergeant who had been assigned to investigate Carmen's murder, by this stage still an open although largely inactive case, was reassigned to the task force implementing to investigate the murder of Wanda. And I don't know why they didn't think they were linked, other than the fact that the first car was a Pinto and now this is a very large brown sedan. And I'm thinking of what kind of car? Because back then, brown was a color.
It was a common
It
car
was a
color.
common color. And I'm thinking the Oldsmobile Delta 88, the Cadillac DeVille, a Lincoln, all these big cars back then. Could they not start searching for those cars? I mean, I don't know, stalk these people?
I was thinking that with the Pinto,
Well,
but
yes, exactly. Because I don't know how common a Pinto would have been in Rochester at that point. But I know they were kind of everywhere, but I don't know. I just feel like I know they did searches trying to find the girls, but you also need to try to find who might have them and maybe go in their home or something. I don't know. It's so sad to me. In September 1973, local television network WOKR announced plans to broadcast a televised reconstruction of Wanda's abduction and subsequent recovery of her body. This 30-minute episode was broadcast on October 21st, accompanied by public appeals for witnesses to contact authorities. Although this program resulted in the Rochester Police Department receiving over 200 calls from the public, no useful leads were gained, which is unbelievable to me. How was none of that leads? 200? Did they really do their due diligence? Because that's a lot of people.
yeah,
And I don't know what they were, but I'm sure there was probably neighbors who's like, my neighbor has a brown car and he's weird. Or my neighbor has a Pinto and he always wants to talk to my little girl and give him back ride,
piggyback rides.
piggyback
Yes.
rides. Or, I'm sure it was things like that.
Or
But
this dude is watching these kids so closely.
yes,
There had to have been someone that was catching someone's eye in this 200 people.
yes. And I'm sure if they reopened these cases, or I know it's a cold case, and went back through, I'm sure that this guy is named in these 200 leads,
Probably.
more than likely.
Mm.
So, 7 months later, on the evening of November 26, 1973, 11-year-old Michelle Mienzo was reported missing by her mother, Carolyn, after she failed to return home from school. Subsequent investigators would determine Michelle was last seen by her classmates at approximately 3:20 p.m. walking alone en route to a shopping plaza located close to her school with the intention of retrieving a purse her mother had left inside a store within the plaza earlier that day. And I can't imagine, as a mother, sending my child to go retrieve my purse that I had forgotten and now she's missing.
Oh, yeah.
That mother had to live with that
You're going to feel guilt anyway.
forever. Absolutely. But that is going to be replayed in her mind to the day she dies.
Yeah.
Approximately 10 minutes later, a witness observed Michelle sitting in the passenger seat of a beige or tan vehicle traveling at high speed on Anchorman Street before turning onto Webster Avenue. Now, I don't know what color this Pinto was, but it's not big.
Right.
But now they're talking about a beige colored or tan colored vehicle, which is kind of brown.
Exactly.
So I don't know if this is the same vehicle, but it leads me to believe that it could very possibly be the same vehicle. According to this witness, the child had been weeping. At 5:30 p.m. on November 26, a motorist observed a man standing by a large beige or tan vehicle with a flat tire parked alongside Route 350 in the town of Walworth, holding a girl he strongly believed to be Michelle Mienza by the wrist. When this motorist had stopped to offer assistance, the individual had deliberately grabbed the girl and pushed her behind his back, also obscuring his license plate from the motorist's view as he stared in his direction with such a meaning expression on his face that the motorist had left the compelled had that the motorist had felt compelled to drive away. Now, I'm going to say this. That's going to make me be
Very
more
suspicious.
suspicious and probably just I don't know if people thought about firearms back then, but it's going to make me want to really find out the license plate number and call the police at this point. But that's my personality. I know that's your personality, but again, it's a different time and era. So,
Or at least even when you're driving away, kind of fake it to
yes.
get it, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
So obviously, you know, there's something nefarious and that needs to be taken care of. But people would just drive away, remembering this later on when it needs to be remembered and then going to the cops.
so it bothered them enough to remember it later.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know, and again, this driver was compelled to drive away. I would be compelled to get out and confront the guy. But anyway, it's so frustrating to read
I
these.
would have
And
been scared to leave
yes.
her.
And this little girl is probably thinking, finally, someone's going to help me. And then she just watches him drive away. I mean, how devastating is that? So Michelle's fully clothed body was discovered at 10:30 a.m. on November 28th, lying face down in a ditch alongside Rural Road, Macedon, approximately 15 miles from Rochester. Her autopsy revealed that in addition to receiving extensive blunt force trauma to her body, Michelle had been raped and then strangled to death from behind with a ligature, possibly a thin rope. And mind you, same thing. In the previous with Wanda, she had been strangled from
From
behind.
behind. Yeah.
So this is kind of like an MO for this person. Numerous strands of white cat fur were discovered upon her clothing, and leaf samples matching the foliage where her body was discovered were recovered from within one of her clenched hands. That's so sad,
Mhm.
indicating that she had likely been strangled to death or at near the location where she was found. And so this person, the hairs, the white hairs, obviously is in the car.
Yeah.
So it's one of two things. It's either a cat that they have at home and they get cat fur on their clothes and then it transfers to the car. They're getting the girls in the car and then that's how the hair's getting on them. Or it's a dog that they might take with them during their travels and then leave the dog at home when they are kidnapping these little girls. But it never really indicates
I don't
dog or
know. You
cat.
almost have to wonder. You can go out there and say, did he keep that cat in his car just to get those
Oh, that's
girls in that
true.
car? I mean, that's kind of far
That's
fetched, but
true.
I mean, they're clearly getting cat fur off of their clothing.
Yes. It could have been a tactic instead of candy. He used a a cute kitten or
Yeah,
something.
because how are you going to get little girls
Oh,
a
yeah. A cute
puppy
little
or a
animal.
kitty cat? I
Yes,
mean, come on. Ugh.
absolutely. Hadn't thought about that. Very possible. Investigators were able to retrieve a partial palm print from her neck and traces of semen on her body and underwear. A forensic analysis of the semen samples determined she had been raped by one individual.
Okay.
An analysis of the contents of Michelle's stomach revealed traces of a hamburger and onions, which had been consumed approximately 1 hour before her murder. Given credence to the early reports of a girl matching Michelle's description, having been seen in the company of a Caucasian male with dark hair, aged between 25 and 35, approximately 6 foot inches, and weighing 165 pounds, both at a fast food restaurant in the downtown of Pennifield at approximately 4:30 p.m. on the afternoon of her disappearance, and alongside Route 350 approximately 1 hour later.
He took her to lunch.
Yes.
God, that's sick.
Isn't that though? That is horrible. But that was his way of probably gaining her
Of
trust.
course.
And that's horrible. I mean, the whole thing's horrible. But this person was just a sick individual. So Carmen, Wanda, and Michelle were each laid to rest in Rochester's Holy Sepulchre Cemetery. Carmen's funeral was conducted on November 22nd, 1971. Her funeral mass was attended by 200 mourners. Wanda was laid to rest on April 6, 1973. She was laid to rest in a small white and gold casket following a service officiated by Reverend Benedict Inman. Michelle's funeral was held at the Corpus Christi Church on December 1st, 1973. Her open casket funeral services was attended by scores of mourners. At the conclusion of Michelle's funeral service, her father Christopher Mienza stated to other mourners, "She was a sweet little girl. She didn't fight much." And
Mm,
that's so sad. As a little girl, she shouldn't even have to be in a circumstance to have to fight.
that's right.
And that's the saddest part. And the culprit that did this, the scumbag that did this, knew that.
Yeah.
He knew that these little girls would be vulnerable and sweet, and he could take advantage of them. And I just found that statement so sad. All three child murders generated intense public outrage. Each received intense publicity. Following the murder of Michelle, investigators released a composite drawing of the individual seen with the child by numerous witnesses to the media. They also installed a telephone hotline exclusively devoted to manhunt for the predator, whom they strongly suspected had committed all three murders. A reward was again offered for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of the perpetrator. Although these efforts resulted in numerous calls from the public, no credible suspect was located. We go back to this. I find that incredibly unbelievable.
I'd like more details in that, actually.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. Who are these people? Who 200 people is a lot of people who know somebody who obviously strike a red flag with them. So, although investigators interrogated more than 800 potential suspects in relation to the Alphabet murders, the perpetrator or perpetrators of the homicides were never caught and the case remains unsolved. As each child hailed from a poor Catholic family, had few friends, and had recently experienced issues such as bullying or poor academic performance at her school, the investigators had not discounted the possibility that the murderer may have been employed by or held knowledge of the practices of a social service agency in his efforts to initiate contact with or gain the trust of each victim, which, hello,
Or the skull.
yes, absolutely.
Because oh, that sounds horrible, but how else would you know their names, their routes,
Where they're from,
where they're from, all of that information?
maybe even their favorite food, like,
A
yeah,
hamburger?
hamburger, you know, yeah, which is very possible. Listen, we hear about crimes all the time that happen in our schools.
Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah, even the teachers. I mean, you never know. And they see them every day.
Oh, and yeah, some teachers know a lot of information about these children.
Yeah. They know if there's problems at home,
Mhm.
if they're struggling with being bullied, they need a friend, maybe
It
they're a
wouldn't even have to
loner.
be a teacher necessarily. I mean, you're talking janitors are around all the time,
Cafeteria workers,
cafeteria workers, they hear things, they know things.
teachers' aides,
Oh my gosh,
even
office
social
administration.
workers.
Yeah,
Yeah. So all three victims were pre-adolescent females who had disappeared from Rochester in the early afternoon on days of light or heavy rain, and whose bodies were later discovered within nearby towns. The body of each girl had been discovered either fully clothed or partially clothed close to an expressway at a location typically accessible by vehicle, and each victim had inevitably been thrown from the car, carried from a car to the location her body had been discarded. So, yeah, it sounds like they did what they needed to do. He did get some fight back from these girls because there were witnesses who saw this. So at some point they knew
they
it
were in trouble.
wasn't good.
Yeah.
And he probably got angry, did what he needed to do, and just tossed them like trash on the side of the road, which is horrible.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad that these little girls were found because a lot of the time seems like in these scenarios they were down in a ravine or something like that where they couldn't be seen.
Yeah.
Each child was short in height, and all three girls had been before being strangled to death. In
S-
addition,
So they were a little smaller to be
mhm,
able to throw into this small vehicle
yeah, and easier probably to
to
contain.
grab.
Now
Yeah.
they're
Of course.
saying that he's 6 foot tall
Yeah.
and weighs about 165. So it makes me think he might have been in really good shape.
Right.
Um, Fairly young, 25 to 35. So he probably wants a little girl he can easily control.
Of course.
So, um, in addition, all three were known to be viewed as somewhat lonely outcasts among their peers, which is so sad. So sad. Furthermore, an analysis of the stomach contents of both Wanda and Michelle revealed both girls had ingested food shortly before their death, which neither girl is known to have eaten prior to her disappearance, and the bodies of both girls had been redressed after death. So evidently, before they left home to go run their errand or whatever, they had not eaten that meal at home. Their parents or, their loved ones confirmed that.
So
So
he's
this man
like,
fed them.
yeah.
It was their last meal, so to speak. What a sicko. It just pisses me off. Hmm. It really makes me angry.
Oh, yeah. I'm very angry.
Both contemporary and current investigators have stated the possibility that each victim had been selected due to the double initials of her name is extremely unlikely. As I don't know about that.
There is no way
No,
that is not with three of them.
no,
There is no
no way.
possible way you can't convince me.
I
Sorry.
don't
No.
know why they think that. I'm not an investigator. Okay. That's not my line of work, but that's not a coincidence. I'm sorry. That is not a coincidence.
No.
As for an offender to pre select his victims for this incidental reason would likely involve his stalking his victims over an extensive period of time, thus increasing the risk of his being noticed.
Does it
It
matter?
doesn't matter.
They were people saw him take them. Did it
Yes.
matter? And again, I'm going to go back to they were outcasts at school. Who
Yes.
else would know any of these
That's
things?
right. It
They
was
know
someone
their
close.
names. They know
Mhm.
sick freak. Oh my God.
Sicko.
I am so angry right
It I got so
now.
upset reading
Well, my
this.
babies are 8 and 12, so I'm
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like, how dare you? To do this to a child, period, but seriously, like
Sick.
hand picked these little girls. He had to have.
Yeah.
Furthermore, some investigators believe that although the murders of Wanda and Michelle may have been committed by the same individual who had lured the girls to their deaths, the overall modus operandi of the murder of Carmen strongly indicates her murder had been committed by an individual known and possibly related to her, as opposed to an individual unknown to her who had abducted her by force. That doesn't mean it's not the same person. He might have known Carmen, but I'm sure he knew of these other girls.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. You know what I mean? So I don't know why they can't seem to link them.
I don't it drives me crazy. I feel like this is kind of common sense. Like, you know what? You don't have a lot of friends at school, sweet girl, but you
Yes,
come with me. I'll take you out to lunch.
I'll
I'll
protect you.
protect you. I'll be your friend.
Yes, yes, I'll be your friend. We'll do
They
things
may have all
together.
known him.
Yes, exactly. In the case of Carmen, her uncle Miguel Colon was considered by investigators to be a strong suspect in her murder. Miguel was her parental uncle. Following the separation of Carmen's parents, he had formed a relationship with her mother. Typically, on occasions, Carmen walked to the pharmacy to collect family prescriptions. She had been accompanied by her grandfather Felix, although on the date of her disappearance, Carmen had pleaded with her grandparents to be allowed to walk to the pharmacy unaccompanied. And God bless them. So they
That
did.
one day.
Yeah, sometimes we let our children make a decision because they want their independence, and we will reluctantly let them have it. And then that one time, that one split instant that you go, okay, just make it quick, be safe, don't speak to anyone, and they let her go, and then this happens.
Mhm.
And that is so heartbreaking that they have to go through that. It really is.
Mm.
Just weeks prior to Carmen's abduction and murder, her uncle is known to have purchased a car closely matching the vehicle seen by eyewitnesses reversing upon Interstate 490 in pursuit of the child. Investigators did conduct a search of this vehicle shortly after Carmen's murder, discovering the interior and exterior of the car had been extensively cleaned and the trunk had been washed with a strong cleaning solution. Questioning of the dealership, which had recently sold the vehicle to Miguel, revealed the trunk had not been washed with a detergent prior to sale. Moreover, a doll belonging to the child was found in his car. Although Carmen's relatives informed the investigators she had frequently traveled in Miguel's vehicle and may have left the toy in his car. Furthermore, according to a friend, 2 days after the death of his niece, Miguel had informed him of his intention to leave the country as he had done something wrong in Rochester. He relocated to Rochester to Puerto Rico just 4 days after the murder of his niece.
Did he have a white cat?
Did he have a white cat, or was he living with someone who did, or a dog?
Mhm.
And that still doesn't mean Miguel didn't have something to do with the other two girls. If he is the culprit that did this,
They all start somewhere.
he likes little girls.
Yeah.
So, and maybe it started him on a journey and he just continued on, you know. Um, who knows? But investigators did travel to San Juan to question Miguel in March of 1972, although local newspapers published articles detailing police intentions to question him, resulting in Miguel fleeing from authorities. Miguel surrendered to authorities on March 26 and agreed to extradite back to Rochester to face questioning. Miguel was unable to provide a credible alibi for his movements on the date of his niece's murder, and no individual could be located to corroborate his claims regarding his whereabouts. Despite strong circumstantial evidence attesting to Miguel's guilt, no physical evidence was located at the crime scene or within his vehicle to link him to the murder. So, circumstantial being, even though the car had been deeply cleaned, they don't really know when that deep cleaning took place. They just know it did.
Right.
And back then, DNA, well, I don't even know if they called it DNA. Back then it was
Could they check
fingerprints.
it now?
Yeah, that's the thing. What did they find and did they hold on to it and preserve it? So the sad part is Miguel died by in 1991 at the age of 45 following an incident of domestic violence in which he shot and wounded both his wife and his brother. One individual considered a strong suspect in the Alphabet murders is a 25-year-old Rochester firefighter named Dennis Termini. Termini was a prolific serial offender known as the garage rapist, who is known to have committed a minimum of 14 of teenage girls and young women between 1971 and 1973.
Jeez.
He is also known to have owned a beige vehicle similar to the description to the vehicle observed by several eyewitnesses to the abductions. Moreover, he lived at an address on Bach Street, an address close to the area where Michelle Mianza was last seen alive.
Oh, okay.
And also, again, the brown car, that was typical back then. He's a serial of young girls and young ladies, but did they ever catch him with younger pre-adolescent girls?
Right.
Because that would seem kind of a stretch. Not that it's not possible. It just seems like that would be out of the ordinary.
Right.
So who knows? I mean, at least they checked him out. So 5 weeks after the death of the final victim of the Alphabet murders, on January 1st, 1974, Termini attempted to abduct a teenage girl at gunpoint, although he fled the scene when the teenager refused to stop screaming. Good for her.
No joke.
God bless it. Good for you. Finally, she's like, no, you MFer, I ain't shutting up.
Which you have to wonder if she was a little older.
Yes, it just says,
Teenager.
Teenager. Shortly thereafter, he abducted another potential victim, although on this occasion he was pursued by the police, culminating in Termini committing by shooting himself in the head. A subsequent forensic examination of Termini's vehicle did reveal traces of white cat fur on the upholstery.
Interesting.
Very interesting. In January of 2007, Termini's body was exhumed to obtain a DNA sample for comparison with the semen samples recovered from Wanda's body. The results of this test confirmed Termini was not responsible for her murder. However, no physical evidence retrieved from the bodies of Carmen or Michelle exists for comparison with Termini's DNA.
Come on. That's so sad.
They either did, we know they collected it.
Right.
But they didn't preserve it. They might have had it, and when they went to do the DNA testing on it, it was no longer viable.
Right.
I don't know. They didn't, specify that. Another suspect in the Alphabet murders is serial killer Kenneth Bianchi, who at the time of the murders worked as an ice cream vendor in Rochester.
Okay.
He is known to have worked at locations close to the first two murder scenes. Bianchi had located from Rochester to Los Angeles in January 1976. Between 1977 and 78, he and his cousin Angelo Biano Jr. committed the Hillside Strangler murders of 10 girls and young women between the ages of 12 and 28. Bianchi was never charged with the Alphabet murders and has vehemently denied any culpability in the homicides. He has repeatedly attempted to have investigators officially clear him of suspicion. However, while residing in Rochester, he is known to have driven a vehicle of the same color and model as a vehicle seen near one of the abduction sites.
It sounds like a very popular vehicle color for all of these murderers. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what color was
the van?
Ted Bundy's?
Oh, it was a white VW Bug, and then you have the guys who would commit their crimes in white vans.
Yes.
Or man or woman was known for white vans. So it sounds like they're trying to be anonymous, but they're not anonymous.
Yeah, it's not working so well.
No. In April of 2011, a 77-year-old named Joseph Nasco was arrested in Reno, Nevada for the murders of 4 women in California committed between 1977 and 1994, of all whom are believed to have been prostitutes, and each of whose surnames began with the same letter as that of her first name. Nasco was a New York native who lived near Rochester during the early 70s and who is known to have regularly traveled between New York and California. The only thing is, though, was he in close proximity to these young girls to be able to witness and know them a little better?
Stalk them.
Yeah. And he might have known about the alphabet murders and thought, that's a great idea.
Well, yeah. I
Let me
mean,
put, mocking it, and let me put that into
that sounds
motion.
pretty cool. Let's go with that.
Yeah. Initially described by authorities as a person of interest in the alphabet murders, DNA testing was confirmed Nasco's DNA is not a match to the semen samples recovered from the body of Wanda.
Okay. All right.
Nasco was brought to trial on June 18th, 2013, charged with the murder of the 4 California alphabet murder victims. He was anonymously convicted of each murder on August 20th. On November 22nd, 2013, Nasco was formally sentenced to death. In 1995, the mother of Carmen made her first public statement regarding the murder of her daughter. In this interview, granted to Democrat and Chronicle reporter Jack Jones, Cullen stated that although she had lived her entire life in poverty, if she could have only had one thing before her own death, it would not be wealth, but knowing who had murdered her daughter, adding, "If I could die knowing who killed my daughter, Carmen, I could die more peacefully than I have lived. It is the only thing I want in my life, to know that this person had to pay for the terrible things he did to my little girl. If the person who did this could have any compassion, he would see the pain and suffering of the families of these little girls that these little girls have gone through for all of this time." The Democrat and Chronicle newspaper published a series of articles focusing upon the ongoing police investigations into the alphabet murders in 2009, appealing for public information with view to closing the case. These articles resulted in Rochester Police Department receiving approximately 20 new leads of inquiry. Although all leads received were pursued, none resulted in apprehension and conviction of perpetrators. Nonetheless, a police spokesperson has stated the Rochester Police Department remains committed to solving these cases.
So they had so many leads or so many calls throughout the years and led to nothing.
No. I mean, other than these
There
few
has to be a
people,
little something. It's just so,
it's so broad
yeah.
to only have 3 or 4 people that they've really looked into.
Mm.
I mean, I feel like they should have done more extensive um, investigation to more of these leads that they had. Because I feel like the person that did this is in one of those leads
Oh, I feel like that too.
for sure. And it's probably going to be someone they're not expecting.
There has to be that one. Okay, so I'm the kind of person that if someone is overly nice, I'm suspicious of them.
Yes.
And there has to be that superly overly nice person in there somewhere. Because
That
he
no
had to
one
be.
suspects. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That has that mask, and once that mask falls, but he doesn't let that mask fall until he's with a vulnerable child.
I tell my children now, my oldest, she sees things like I do. Like I'm not comfortable with this person. I don't even like them looking at me.
Yeah.
My youngest is like, oh no, but they're nice. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, but nice doesn't always mean they're a nice person.
No.
Just because they're nice to your face does not make them a nice person.
That's right.
And that scares me because there are people that we see as creepy. And she's like, what? They've always been nice to me.
Yeah. And
You
yeah, it makes you
know?
wonder, why are you so nice to her and maybe not to other people?
And I feel like she just sees the niceness and I need to break that. And I hate that. I hate that I have to do that, But that had to be who that was. There was a person out there that was too overly nice.
Yes.
That everyone's like, oh, he's just a nice guy.
Yes. He wouldn't do that.
He wouldn't do that. But there are those overly nice people. Yeah, that's their mask.
And they usually assume positions in daycare, schools,
Uh-huh.
school bus driver, maybe a soda shop or ice cream shop or hamburger joints,
You
even the
know,
pharmacy, you know?
true.
I mean, gosh, so many things. But, you
It's
know,
heartbreaking.
man, it is. It's so sad. And after, 50 something years, the person's probably dead,
Hmm.
which is good. But the bad part is it never brought justice
That's right.
to these little girls. And I would still like to have a face and name
Of course. Yeah.
to this unsolved case. And the sad part is a lot of the DNA wasn't preserved. And who knows if
Mm,
I hope they didn't use all the DNA that they had, you
right.
know, so maybe they can continue this cold case and try to solve it. So you never know. It could be solved.
It could be.
Yep,
We've
it's
seen it
happened
happen.
before.
Yeah.
So, guys, what do you think? Who do you think did it? I don't know. I kind of juggle. I don't think it was the uncle of Carmen that did that. Evidently, he might have been a little creepy and nefarious. Maybe he didn't have the best of character, but I don't think it was him.
I
Um,
don't either.
but I think that they never hit on the right person. The culprits that they investigated, I just don't think they're the people. I think they
I
need to
don't
go
think
back
so
to that
either.
list of 200.
They may have interviewed this person and thought, man, he's just a nice guy.
Yeah, and they might have interviewed him a couple of times.
Yeah.
And he may pop back up one day. You never know. Kind of like the
It
Delphi
happens.
murders.
Yeah. Yes.
Uh-huh. Kind of like that. So, it's
Yeah, guys,
interesting.
drop us a comment. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
We want to hear it.
Yeah, we're interested to know. But guys, until the next time, remember to see
See
the
the good
good
and
and
stay
stay
imperfectly
imperfectly perfect.
perfect. Bye, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.